Good morning, it's Rosemary again, here with part 8 of our virtual tours. And today I'm taking you up into the organ loft. So the first place we come to at the top of the stairs is the choir vestry. And now, like the vestry I showed you earlier, this is a place for the choir to prepare for the service. In olden days, as in up to the 80s maybe, the choir wore robes, just as the liturgical party do. And that's no longer the case, partly because it gets so hot up here in summer, as I'm sure you can imagine. This is the only stained glass window in the vestry. It shows Mother Emma, who is head of the Anglican Society of the Sacred Advent. These sisters run the schools St. Margaret's and St. Aidan's, but though they have a much more vibrant history beyond that. Now the vestry is mostly used for the choir to store their music. Now let's go through to the organ loft proper. Now, as by now I'm sure you are aware, St. Augustine's is a war memorial church, and as part of that, the organ and organ loft are dedicated to the Navy in memory of those serving in the RAN and the Merchant Navy. It was dedicated in 1959 and then restored in the early 2000s. One of the quirky features of this church is this old phone system, which connects the organ loft with the vestry, the office and the rectory. It hasn't been in use in many years now, possibly since the 70s. Yet, luckily for us, these little boxes remain just as an adornment now. Here you can see the choir stalls are arranged facing each other, facing across the organ. I'm standing in front of a third set of stalls that I am told are not used, mostly due to the fact that it gets quite hot and stifling up here in summer. We're so lucky to have the choir we have. They put a lot of work into the music. Usually they sing at the 9:30 service, leading us in the hymns and the responses. And this is the view they have of the church on a Sunday morning. Now you can see that our church is laid out in the traditional cruciform. Now, I'm not an organ expert by any means, but I am assured that ours is a beautiful instrument. As you can see, it has all the features: pedals, 2 manuals, and all the stops, as they say. In terms of logistics, liturgical logistics, there is a light here, I believe, that with a switch downstairs for the priest to signal to the organist when music was to start, particularly at the beginning of the service. These days there's also a mirror. You can easily see the altar, and as well as that we can use verbal cues: please stand for the hymn, and so on. There are a few small windows up here, in addition to the magnificent Te Deum window which is behind me. I will get to that shortly. These 4 illustrate scenes from some of Jesus' parables, including the Good Samaritan, the parable of the sower, the parable of the lost sheep, and the prodigal son, 2 on each side of the loft. The moment you've all been waiting for, the Te Deum window, which is one of the great treasures in our jewel box of windows. This window depicts Christ the King, with a reference to the Eucharist, and Christ is surrounded by biblical saints and British saints and some Australian figures. So you'll see St. Augustine down the bottom in the centre, as you'd expect. Mary and Joseph, Peter, Andrew, James, John, St. Francis, St. Patrick, St. Aidan, the Venerable Bede, Mary Magdalene and St. Anne, and the Australian figures include 3 of the New Guinea martyrs: Mavis Parkinson, incorrectly depicted as a nun, John Barge, and Nurse May Hayman. Here's one more look at the Te Deum window. I wonder which other saints you can see up here. And there you have the organ loft. I hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to see it up close for yourself, I'm informed the choir is always happy to accept new members when we reopen. And I'd like to thank Linda for her 45 years worth of stories to help with making this video.